I'm Adrian Bealing, and this is my forest ecology Silvics dating profile for yellow cedar. As hard as it may be to listen to this, I had to create it. And as the Dalai Lama once said, the true hero is one who conquers his own anger and hatred. Alaska yellow cedar, Calotropsis nootkitensis. Also known as Nootka cypress, yellow cypress, Alaska cypress, Nootka cedar, yellow cedar, Alaska cedar, cypress, Chemocypress nootkitensis, Xanthosiperus nootkitensis, and Cypressus nootkitensis. The specific epithet nootkitensis is derived from its discovery by Europeans on the lands of the First Nation of Canada, those lands of the New people of Vancouver Island, British Columbia, who were formerly referred to as the Nootka. The importance of this species in material culture is mirrored in their roles in ancient narratives and in their spiritual values as reflected in First Peoples' ceremonies and belief systems. First Nations have always used cedar trees with care and respect, often only partially harvesting cedar wood and bark to allow the trees to continue to live, seen today as culturally modified trees.
We do that.
Fun facts. Yellow cedar has had so many names, I literally have no idea which is the correct scientific name right now. Individuals commonly live between 1,000 and 1,500 years old, and the tree itself is more Canadian than Alaskan, despite its name, Alaskan yellow cedar. Yellow cedar has exceptional longevity and is very durable. It is a common choice for shingles, posts, poles, marine piling, small boat hulls, oars and paddles, water and chemical tanks, exterior doors, and window boxes. Structural grades are commonly used for exterior applications such as bridges, decking, stairs, and landscaping. It is sometimes used in specialty construction projects such as temples and shrines. Yellow cedar is well suited for flooring and bridge decking because of its strength, hardness, and wear properties. It resists corrosion and the elements, so it is ideal for industrial uses like fumes, chemical containers, horse stables, floors, and outdoor seating in sports facilities. First Nations use almost every part of the tree. Roots are dried and braided to make hats and baskets. The bark is dyed and processed into thread for mats, clothing, blankets, and hats. The bark is also used for ropes, baskets, and fishing nets. The inner bark is soft, so it has been used for baby diapers, bedding, sanitary napkins, and towels. The dried bark is excellent tinder for matches and torches. Cedar wood is used for totem poles, masks, and longhouses, as well as canoes, paddles, hooks, spears, and fishing floats. Fish are preserved in cedar smokehouses or dried on cedar racks. Yellow cedar is also used to make bentwood boxes to store food or other goods. It also has medicinal properties, but may be best suited for pulpwood. Basic tree description. Yellow cedar is a coastal high-elevation tree species. It is a medium-sized evergreen conifer, sometimes reaching a height of more than 40 meters, but rarely greater than 40 meters tall. It forms a pyramidal crown at maturity, sparse branches, and drooping scale-leaved foliage, often with slight twisted stem, drooping leader, flattened vertical hanging branches, and thin grayish-brown bark that separates into narrow, shaggy, intersecting ridges with age. It is one of the slowest growing but most valuable conifers owing to the unique color, texture, and durability of its wood. In freely drained soils, yellow cedar develops a dense, profuse root system with a non-existent or poorly defined taproot, similar to that of western red cedar. Fine roots form a very dense mat in the surface organic layer. Roots are mycorrhizal of the vesicular arbuscular type. Life history. Present in all successional stages, it is a pioneer species on subalpine, colluvial, and wetland sites. Found commonly in climax stands, owing in part to its longevity. Geographic range. In coastal mountain ranges from south-central Alaska to northern California. Less common south of Mount Rainier. Usually at elevations between 600 to 2,300 meters, but occasionally near sea level in the Olympics. Orographic amplitude. Submontane, montane, subalpine. Beck zones include mountain hemlock, Engelmann spruce, subalpine fir, and coastal western hemlock. Edaphic amplitude. Prefers fresh to wet soils, favorable in poor to rich nutrient regimes. Often found on harsh sites such as thin soils or wet soils where other species grow poorly. The nutritional requirements of yellow cedar are comparable to those of western red cedar. Get a load of that bad boy. Also, forgot to show that. Also, forgot to show that. Amen, brother. Tolerances. Thin, organic, or rocky soils, talus slopes, soils low in nutrients, wet and poorly drained soils. Best growth is on deep, well-drained soils, but it cannot compete with its faster growing associates on such sites. Moderately drought tolerant, high tolerance of flooding and saturated soils. Occurs where snow insulates the soil during winter. Shade tolerance similar to Pacific silver fir. Photosynthetic saturation reached at 60% of full sunlight. Associates. In British Columbia, yellow cedar grows in uneven aged mixed species stands, rarely in pure or even aged stands. It is often a pioneer species on colluvial and wetland sites and is present in early, mid, and late stages of secondary succession. A major component of old-growth stands in the hypermaritime coastal western hemlock zones and mountain hemlock zone. Often occurs individually or in small groups in conifer stands, including mountain hemlock, Pacific silver fir, subalpine fir, western hemlock, noble fir, whitebark pine, and western white pine. Come on, giddy up, giddy up. No, that's a fence. Damaging agents. Browse damage is uncommon. Insects and diseases are not a serious problem. Wood is resistant to most fungal damage. Fire is infrequent in its cool, wet habitat, but is susceptible to fire damage owing to thin bark. Based upon isozymes, the proportion of diversity among populations was considerable. GSD was equal to 0.139, and 3 major geographical groups were evident. Vancouver Island, mid-north coast, British Columbia, south coast, BC, Washington State, and southeast Alaska. First described in the genus Suppressus as Suppressus nootkitensis in 1824, it was transferred to Chemosiperus in 1841 on the basis of its foliage being in flattened sprays, as in other Chemosiperus, but unlike most other Suppressus species. However, this placement does not fit with the morphology and phenology of the cones, which are far more like Suppressus, like them maturing in 2 years instead of 1. Genetic evidence published strongly supported its return to Suppressus and exclusion from Chemosiperus. More recently, in 2002, it was transferred to a new genus, Xanthosiperus, together with the newly discovered Vietnamese golden cypress, Xanthosiperus Vietnamensis. This species is remarkably similar to Nootka-cypress, and the treatment has many arguments in its favor, as they are not fully related to Chemosiperus. Neither do they fit properly in Suppressus, despite the many similarities. The name Xanthosiperus was proposed for conservation, and a 2011 International Botanical Congress followed that recommendation. In 2021, a molecular study found the species to indeed belong to the distinct genus Calotropsis and sister to Hespercyprus and Xanthocyprus, I'm pretty sure. Now you might be wondering to yourself, Adrian, what's going on? You haven't talked down on this tree species that much at all. Well, lucky for you folks, I've saved the best for last. Dieback has been occurring in southeastern Alaska for more than a century. The cause may be climate-related decrease in snowpack depth leading to root frost damage, and thus their populations are decreasing. So now I ask you all to raise a glass. We've done it, boys. Team Red Cedar for life. Thanks for watching.